The Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency has engaged traditional marriage coordinators known as Alagas in a bid to tackle the menace of sexual and gender-based violence. The agency says it believes that infusing advocacy into such traditional marriage ceremonies would have far-reaching effects. There is more in this report.
This isn't a wedding setting, despite the merry appearances of the attendees. They are members of the Association of Professional Wedding Engagement Coordinators of Nigeria in Lagos. Regarded as custodians of culture and tradition, the Lagos government is soliciting their support in preventing domestic and sexual violence in the state.
At least 70% of our survivors of domestic violence, aside from being married under the law, also solemnize their union during customary law or traditional practices. And so we know that they have interface with intending couples. And so what we're trying to do today is introduce this preventive lens to the Alaga Iduos and the Alaga Ijokos, letting them know that in the process of counseling intending couples, they should infuse this zero tolerance message of domestic violence, because we believe that it's important in preventing the occurrence from even in the first instance.
The DSVA says among the youngest survivor of sexual and gender-based violence it has attended to is a 40-day-old baby, and that the oldest is a 75-year-old woman who was raped by her tenant, which underscore the threats at hand.
We, the Alagas, we are to moderate and anchor cultural aspects of marriages. Therefore, we play a major and important role as anchors. I know that our culture forbids violence, so part of our duties as an Alaga is to physically meet with intending couples and to counsel them before the event, during the event, and especially after the event.
Domestic violence is not welcome in any way in any marriage, not more in Lagos. Even if they have been doing it before, not more in Lagos.
It is expected that this roundtable forum will expose the trends of SGBV and ensure violence-free homes. Kemi Foladiemo, TVC News, Lagos.
For more on this development, let's speak with the President's Action Health, or the President, who is the co-founder, Action Health International, Uwamedimo Esiet, who is joining me via Zoom from Lagos. Thank you so much for joining us. The issue of gender-based violence is, an age-long topic where everyone talks about how it affects people. But talk to us about the manifestations of gender-based violence on individuals and communities.
Thank you for having me. Gender-based violence is a global problem. And this problem became more exacerbated during and immediately after the COVID lockdown period. And you know that as a nation, Nigeria already has a law, the VAP Act, that is against domestic violence. And in Lagos State in particular, this law has been domesticated. And indeed, a lot has been happening. But let's come and look at the manifestation, which is your direct question. Domestic violence or gender-based violence is not only a physical threat that we know when the man, in most cases, beats the woman, but it also has a psychological dimension whereby the spouse, in this case the man, who has the economic needs, decides to ignore or psychologically or emotionally traumatize the wife or the partner. There is also the economic dimension, whereby the one who has money keeps away money from the other party oftentimes this is what the man does. And aside to all of these are the social norms that tend to drive sexual and gender-based violence. And I can share a few with you. Women are told, for instance, that getting married is a school and they have to learn, forgetting that marriage is not an act of one person. There are at least two persons involved, two families involved, and two communities coming together. And the onus is put on the woman to adjust her life, whilst the other party, the man, is not encouraged or told that, no, this is unacceptable. And finally, sexual and gender-based violence is a gross violation of the human rights of the woman, her dignity and her personhood and her autonomy. She has a right to life, a right to play, a right to work, a right to earn an income, a right to own property, a right to keep her resources. So if we don't balance this out, then what it means is that we are fueling toxic masculinity and patriarchy, which is the bane of our society, where a woman is seen or has no voice, but the man has a voice, is seen, and is given the rights over and above that of the woman. So we need to be looking at equity and equality and social justice.
That's one of the things. That's one of the things that we get to experience, especially in a society such as ours. You know, talk about the African society where we practice much more of patriarchal, system. But then talk to us how we can engage men and boys in, combating the problem of gender-based violence, so as to, promote positive masculinity as against the toxic masculinity you mentioned.
It starts from the home, the family level. First and foremost, we should not stereotype jobs for boys and for girls. What is wrong if both boys and girls go into the kitchen